So I'm standing there staring at this TV that's right above the entrance to the restrooms. And I realize there's then this guy yelling at me from right below the TV, yelling at me, wondering why the hell are you staring at me? What are you looking at? You want to go outside?
Oh boy.
What are you looking at?
And you're just
and once
mean mugging him the whole time.
Yeah, and I'm just like, but I'm looking at the TV, and so then like somehow he caught my attention, and so my eyes just move ever so slightly down, and there's this like 5'4" guy yelling at me, and I'm like, what? I'm looking at the TV. He goes, oh, sorry, man. You want to do some coke? Yes, welcome to the Video Reformation Podcast. I'm Ben Oliver.
I'm Justin Plant.
We're the co-founders of Storyboard Media and your guides to practicing effective video for business. We're like the Giles to your Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Giles. I never got into that show.
Neither did I.
Too scary. I mean, all those demons and stuff.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I did like the movie, though.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people have made comparisons to this show and Buffy, just like how addicting it is and sometimes scary.
Right. And I've always been told that I look like Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Yes.
So,
a 90s Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Yes. Yes. A mid to late 90s Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Back in her prime.
Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that we know exactly how to verbalize our topic yet today. I imagine this is one of those where we'll figure out the name of the episode during the episode. The best I can put it so far is differences in the types of content at varying stages of the marketing funnel.
Mm-hmm. Quantity, quality,
price, etc.
It'll come to us.
Yep. All 5 bullet points here under each section. But you're going to have to wait to find out what those are because, as I understand it, we have a new sponsor this week.
Sure do. Surprise.
Wow. Who do we got today?
It is Whipper Capper.
Whipper Capper?
Whipper Capper.
Whipper Capper.
That doesn't have like a little pronunciation key, but I think it's either or.
Whipper Capper.
Heard it both ways.
Okay. Well, stick around a little bit later, and you can hear the full spot from Whipper Capper.
How do you want to launch into this one?
I don't know. Like multiple conjoined triangles of success. I think we may actually need a graphic guide for this.
Which we're also going to concoct on the way down.
Right. And I'm now committing us to a graphic element to this episode. So for those of you listening the audio version, you may want to flip over to the video version. One, to see my face reminiscent of an in her prime Sarah Michelle Gellar from the late 90s. And two, maybe just to see some of our multiply conjoined triangles of success. So we're going to talk about the differences in types of videos, production quality, quantity of content, the value of the content, metrics that you would track, ROI that you could track at 3 distinctly different stages of the marketing or marketing and sales funnel. I think we could probably just say that this is restricted to the marketing funnel.
Okay, I was going to say we should clarify how that works.
Yeah. To me, this would be up to a sale.
Up to a qualified lead. I think to the sale.
Honestly, I think it depends on the company and how they're structured.
Sure. More and more, I'm having conversations with marketing departments and how they are needing to. Sales teams are insisting that they get video content to help facilitate the sale, and so I would put it all the way through to the sale.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Agreed. So there we go. Pre-sale funnel. I don't think we need to worry about naming the stages of the funnel because then we'll get into a whole other conversation about all of the different terminology that surrounds.
Everyone's got their own names for it.
But I think we can all agree that the top of the funnel content is that brand and product awareness type stuff, thought leadership. The middle of the funnel is that kind of self-education, consideration, research. What does this thing actually do? Could it help me? Mm-hmm. And then that bottom stage of the funnel is, okay, I see them as an option. I also maybe have a couple other options, and I'm making my final decision on whether to go with this.
The decision-making point.
Yeah. So let's start at the very top of the funnel. I think before and this is something that we've started doing in Springboards. We've done before where we put basically pre-awareness content as its own level, and then we define awareness as awareness of the brand. But I've been starting to fold that all into just the awareness level.
Okay.
So it's everything from the first time somebody finds out about you, either through a piece of content or
that you've created
or an article that someone else, a third-party article that someone else referenced you, or they just do a Google search and end up on your site because you hit the same keywords that they were searching for.
Yeah.
Kind of all the way through. Okay, now I see that this is a brand and they have something that could potentially help me.
Yeah.
At that point, you have gained awareness of this brand as a potential solution for you. Uh-oh, Justin's up. Track him. Follow him.
This book actually has, I'm going to flip this open while you talk about, I think early on it kind of talks about some of these moments.
Show us the book.
It's Making the Complex Compelling by David Chapin. I think Chapin.
By our friend David.
Once upon a time.
Our once upon a time friend David. So I've started basically positioning in our Springboards awareness as that may have no understanding of who you are as a brand or a product through the point where now they say, okay, these people might be able to help me with my problem, even if it's not product specific. What does the book say?
This is based off of Prochaska's trans-theoretical model of change, which everyone's heard of.
Of course. We've referenced it before in the podcast.
But there's pre-contemplation, which I think is akin to, I didn't know this brand or this solution existed. I didn't even know that I maybe even had this problem.
Right.
Then there's contemplation, where you start to admit that the problem exists. You seek more information. Then there's preparation, where you're evaluating things. You're actively making plans, schedules, goals, trying to map out, how am I going to buy something to solve this problem? Or how am I going to solve this problem? And then action is where you assign resources to this solution. And then the sale, where you actually sign a contract or make a commitment to actually do something. And then it's got advocacy and stuff after that. But I think right now we're ending at sale.
And as somebody recently said somewhere, that awareness isn't this like aha moment. Nobody wakes up in the morning saying, you know what? I am now aware of the fact that I need a MarTech solution for my whatever. Like, that's not how this happens. And I think that's, lost your little bookmark there.
Dry leaf.
Because I think there is, and I know that thought leadership is one of those buzzwords that a lot of people just kind of zone out on, which is unfortunate because, and this is something that we have followed for years, but being an expertise-based business puts you in a position to differentiate yourselves immediately from your competitors who are maybe trying to commoditize something or make it as scalable as quickly as possible. So they can sell as much of it. Oftentimes in the B2B game, it's about specific solutions. Even if they are technological solutions, SaaS solutions, a lot of them are highly customized to the individual purchasers.
Yep.
And so you need to build that trust before any sales engineer or even SDR starts to have a conversation with someone. And so there's this whole range, this whole opportunity to position yourself as someone who knows what they're talking about the space. And, I mean, let's be honest, this is why the intro to this podcast is we're your guides to practicing effective video for business. We've taken the expertise model here. We're trying to share our experience, our expertise, our positions on things.
Yes, that's an important part. I was going to say, you hit at this part of the marketing world where you're helping somebody achieve awareness of a problem. You need to take a position. You need to have a perspective that's part of your niche.
Yeah. And we've talked about this even in recent episodes. It's the companies that don't know how they're positioning themselves and they don't know what their tip of the spear is. They don't know what their primary differentiator is, however they want to position it. Those are the ones who are trying to do like the one video that rules them all.
Yeah.
Right. The messaging to everybody because they haven't taken the time and the effort. I mean, we're going on a very
No, this is perfect. I think it does apply perfectly.
But we're going on a very win without pitching tangent here, which is designed for creative agencies. But we found that it applies so often, even to B2B SaaS companies, in these kinds of things. So back to the top of the funnel, we've got opportunities for lightly or almost completely unbranded content here because it's educational. We've got opportunities to start to create a definition for the public of what the brand is about. And the brand, whether it's a brand that has 20 products, 2,000 products, or one software product, it needs to leverage that brand identity to try to sell the things that it tries to sell.
Yep.
So we've got this very broad audience, search engine driven, educational, help the audience, whether they are legitimate prospects or not, understand things about trying to figure out what their pain points are, or trying to name their pain points, trying to figure out what the problem is. Understanding those things before even saying, here's a solution. Because if you don't exactly explain a potential solution perfectly, somebody without taking the time to do that pre-consideration stage, that top of the awareness stage, may not be able to connect it to a problem or a use case that they haven't been able to define yet.
Yeah, I mean, to kind of draw that out in a different way, more of like a consumer world, you might be searching for bread because you want to buy some bread online, which everybody does these days, I guess. As a bread alternative, you might jump into that search world and start to promote yourself there and say, did you know there's another thing out there that's maybe not as filling? Or
you mean like lettuce wraps?
Lettuce wraps, sure. I was thinking, gluten-free or, certain allergens are, but a lot of the people who have just been eating bread their whole life didn't realize that, there's lettuce wraps out there that are a lot healthier and less filling and so on.
There's our title, by the way. This episode is going to be called Lettuce Wraps.
Lettuce Wraps. Let us rap about marketing videos.
Video at differing stages of the funnel.
So what type of content are we seeing in this pre-awareness and awareness stages?
I think from a messaging standpoint, it's largely very broad. So you may be creating an educational series that answer just some industry level questions.
Okay. Do we need to have a product that we're selling? Would that help?
We don't.
Okay.
I really think we don't. I don't think we need a product until either the very end of this stage. To me,
I didn't mean highlighting a product. I just thought maybe if we had a
a hypothetical product.
Yeah.
Lettuce wraps?
Let's go with it.
We're going hard into the niche of B2B lettuce wraps in this episode.
Until that doesn't work anymore, and then we'll abandon it immediately.
Right. I give it 3 minutes. I'm going to go search for alternatives to bread.
Okay.
And if your company, Let Us Wrap LLC, comes up high in my search terms with a video that says, looking to quit bread, try lettuce wraps, I'm probably going to click on that video and be like, oh, well, I'm looking to quit bread. Let's see what lettuce wraps are about.
And what would that video have in it, do you think?
That video would probably spend half of its time or 2/3 of its time talking about the various reasons that people might want to quit bread. And one of those is going to be the reason that I want to quit bread. Maybe my reason is I'm pre-diabetic and I want to cut carbs. But I love sandwiches. And so I've got to figure out a way to cut down on like refined flours and things like that to minimize my carbs. That would probably be one of the things that would be in that video. But some people may have developed a gluten intolerance. And so they don't really care about the carb level. They care more about the gluten. Give the people those opportunities to say, okay, well, these people identify the reason that I'm trying to quit bread as a legitimate reason to quit bread. I wonder if what else they have to say. And you could start to position lettuce wraps, or you don't even get into lettuce wraps at that point at all. I certainly wouldn't get into your lettuce wraps at that point. You may talk about like vegetable-based alternatives, like 2 slices of tomato.
Yeah.
I'm hungry now.
A potentially valuable piece of content in this scenario would be, here's the history of bread and where it started and how we got to where we are, and then identify like some issues with today's bread as opposed to maybe what we were used to be eating. And so that, well, today's bread isn't really, doesn't really work with today's modern person. And so there's a mismatch there, and just identifying that there's a mismatch, there's a market opportunity, or I guess that's maybe the wrong way to put it, but there is a market opportunity in that. And would you like to know more about some alternatives?
That's the kind of, if I were on that exploratory journey, I would want to, and I specifically mean but I think what we know from a lot of the recent studies is that most B2B lettuce wrap buyers are self-educating before they say, I'd like to talk to someone in sales, right? So I think it's somewhere between 83 and 87%. Like, they make 83 to 87% of their research, and they get that close to making a decision before they say, yes, I'm willing to talk to a person who's going to try to sell me something. So I personally would want to, like, I dive into that stuff. And I've always been like that. Even when I was a kid, like buying my first drum set, I was on the phone with music stores, like mapping out on a legal pad each piece of hardware,
before video marketing
cost,
existed. But
yes, exactly. Because I'm old. But like, I've always been a very research influenced buyer, and I think what we understand about B2B buyers on the whole is that they are very research driven. And a key part of that, is why might somebody... Right, they may think there's got to be a better way. We're exploring some client portals right now, some digital portals, web-based portals, to congregate all of our like weekly updates to clients and assets, links to deliverables,
brand guidelines,
links to different rounds of feedback, all in one place. So because so often and you're this way when you're the client also, right? So we would almost, people are terrible at searching their email inbox to go back and find their it's
email's inefficient.
Just to Slack. It's easier just to Slack your client contact and say, or vendor contact and say, hey, where are these files again? And when you get that the third or fourth time, it's like there's got to be a better way to share this
Everybody's
stuff.
thinking that.
And I don't even know that we knew that we had a problem, or that there were already pre-made solutions for those kinds of things. It's just when we realized that we're like, what if there was a thing where we could just compile all that stuff and like give our clients a login to access that stuff, and like started Googling that. Like, we didn't go and start Googling like client portal. It was like agency
client management software,
management tools or plugins or something like, and then so we did that research along the way, and then ultimately found 2 vendors that we have then had demos from, and now we're trialing one of those products. But it all started 2 or 3 months ago with for the 4th time a client's like, hey, can I get a link to this thing? And you're basically just forwarding the link or the email where you said, here's the link again. I sent this to you originally 3 weeks ago, and you're doing that kind of passive aggressive, like this is the 4th time Jacqueline is.
But what does this content maybe look like in terms of tone, production quality? I know some of it depends on your brand.
It does,
of course.
But you can't just say really smart things in a boring and monotone way that isn't engaging, because you're not going to get through, because there's so much competing for everyone's attention that someone else is talking about how to quit bread. And if they're doing it in a more engaging and interesting way, I'm not going to give the boring and bland delivery of it much of a chance, because then I'm just going to back up a page to the Google search results and go to the second result.
Sure.
And if that's more interesting and engaging, then I'm going to stick with that one. And that's the rabbit hole I'm going down. I mean, you want to position these things fun enough, engaging enough, unbranded enough.
So you're not being sold. So you don't feel like you're being sold something.
You're definitely not being sold
something. Because you're learning something at this point, and you don't want to be sold something when you're learning.
Yeah.
'Cause then it smells weird.
Yeah. And you want your rabbit hole to be the one that prospects go down, because the further in your rabbit hole that they go, there's just this, I mean, there's something scientific to it, but there's this attachment where all of a sudden, even over time, because, I mean, how often do you find that you're educating a prospect, but they could still be 2 years out from using your product? Like, they need to reach a certain level of maturity.
Yep.
Be that resource for them for 2 years, because guess who the first person they're going to come to when they're ready to commit to lettuce wraps? We've made it longer than 3 minutes. If you're the person who from the beginning was educating them, and these things then become their beliefs. Right. And the more that their beliefs are, like, we've got things from David, from Blair, from Brennan Dunn,
Sakis,
Vidyard, that when I read them back, I'm like, oh, that's exactly how we say that.
Yeah.
But now I can't even tell if we say that because that's how they
Yeah.
said that 3 years ago when we read it for the first time. But
I think it's a trust thing. Like,
it is.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're building trust. That's
Yeah.
what you need to do. And if you're constantly selling something,
Yeah.
it's hard to trust that.
And part of trust is, like, would I trust these people to help me solve my problem? They can educate me, but, like, is for some reason I immediately flashed on Carol Baskin's videos from Tiger King. Is that what it was? Where she's got this, like, green sheet behind her and she's, like, floating on a space background. Or, like, that works for her because she's crazy and a murderer. But I don't know that I would actually trust lettuce wraps that come from a company that I may pin some thoughts for later and go explore and see if anyone else has the same opinions.
Yeah.
But when I get down to that, like, who's going to help me find my solution that isn't bread, I'm probably not going to trust someone who's, and I'm not talking about, like, low production quality, but, like, if it's sketchy because it's salesy, or if it's sketchy because it's in, like, there's, like, dripping water onto the, like, inventory shelves behind them in the shot or something like that. I mean, you know, I'm trying not to, like, oversell the need for quality, but, like, that all goes into trust. Like, even if it was just on, like, a beige or a white background up against the wall, I'd be like, okay, well, this is clean. As opposed to, like, you know, in a
Bad
weird
green screen.
Yeah, bad green screen or something like that. So those things do go into it. So you're building trust. When you get down to the part where you're starting to introduce your brand for the first time, and basically you're taking these people on this journey where it's like, we've been talking to you about reasons to and ways to quit bread for a while now. Now feels like the right time in your journey, audience, for us to introduce how we approach an alternative to bread. And so, to me, the bottom of that awareness funnel kind of, it ends with that we are this brand, this is our why, these are our differentiators, like, these are the benefits. I'm still not really selling you on a product, but I'm saying, take the capital that I've gained by helping educate you and help you understand this space, and now I want to introduce you to our brand because we do have solutions.
Typically, this funnel, you know, I guess the modern, or we're past the funnel, I think, in some stages. People are talking about flywheels, whatever, but fine. So that shape is an upside down triangle with a point at the bottom and up at the top. There's way more prospects than there are down at the bottom. But we're talking about the content. So does that triangle, is that inverted now? Or, like, in terms of quantity, I'm talking about, like, how many of these videos do you need at the top of your funnel?
I think my answer is different than when we were outlining this. Because the addition of that unbranded educational content, there could be a ton of that content.
Yeah.
To be perfectly honest. If I were looking at it from a brand, which I think is how we went into this discussion thinking about this, is that there are fewer pieces of content at this stage. So if we restrict it to the branded content, stuff that says, okay, Let Us Wrap LLC as a company.
Introducing Let Us Wrap.
Introducing Let Us Wrap LLC. Those are, you need one video introducing yourself.
So you're saying a lot of this like pre-awareness stuff can be like a library of content,
Yeah.
unbranded or
Yeah.
lightly branded, but it's all educational. It's not selling anything.
Right, and I also firmly believe that the benefit of that is to help identify better qualified prospects later on, because the more educated your potential prospects are, the easier it's going to be for them to identify whether, once you get into what your solutions are, whether those solutions fit. And we've had a lot of conversations with clients recently where it's just as valuable, and this is one of those counterintuitive things about marketing and sales, but it bears out, is it's just as valuable to disqualify a prospect who's not a fit, who isn't going to be someone who's ultimately going to buy. It's just as valuable to get those people out of the funnel as soon as possible as it is to pass qualified potential actual buyers further down in the funnel.
I always felt like that was theoretical until in the last several Springboard or the roadmaps that we've delivered.
Yeah.
We've created content that is specifically about kicking people, unqualified prospects out of the funnel.
Yeah.
And our clients are eating it up because they know how valuable SDR time is. They either need to be making more calls or passing the right people along.
Yeah.
So still up here at the top of the funnel, what sort of metrics are we tracking here? What are something else?
Let me just link quality and quantity first before we move on to that. Because right, with the pre-awareness, with the educational, with the unbranded stuff or lightly branded stuff, depending on what space you're in, that could be 1,000 videos. Right. It could be 6, and that does it enough to help people understand, okay, now I know what my problem is. Once you get to that branded type of content, the one piece of branded content in the awareness stage is that brand introduction.
Yep.
If you've got a strong brand why, like the Simon Sinek why, that's probably your focus on that messaging. If you don't have that, but you're in a very crowded marketplace, you probably want to lean on your key differentiators. What is it about us that this is how this is that perspective, that position. This is how we believe this is done right, and the people who work best with us are the ones who believe the same thing. That is a hugely important piece of content. It's one piece of content, but it needs to look good. It needs to sound good. It has the largest potential audience of any single piece of content you're going to make. So you have to, and yes, likely this is not a first impression, but this is your brand's first impression. Because even the people that you've been educating for years, this is the first time you're saying this is what we're really about. And so this is you only get that one chance to make a first impression. So you should be spending more on this video. The production quality needs to be higher on this video. It needs to be the most polished or like future or ideal version of yourself as possible without being inauthentic. Because it's where you really get to say, come inside.
Yep.
Like all the other stuff
it's your front door. It's finally your front door.
Yes, all the other stuff is curb appeal, right? And it's the right listing and it's the right tags in the MLS listing and whatever. But like this is the come inside.
Yep.
This is the front door to say, let's have coffee together and talk about shit.
And yeah, everyone's front door is different, and hopefully it reflects some of your beliefs. Some people might have a lot of windows because they like the daylight and they like transparency. So you might have a mezuzah, is that what they're called? to say, "Look, here's what I identify with. Here's what's something that's important to me. You might have a wreath with that has sort of like, or a pineapple to emphasize hospitality. You know,
Or
all
swinging.
these things. Is that what? I thought a red light or something.
Well,
then
it
you're getting
rotates.
into the drug underworld.
it's a totally different podcast.
That's a different kind of rap.
The Swingers Reformation podcast. Yes, you're absolutely right. And also, everybody's house is different on the inside too.
Yeah.
Some have finished countertops, and some don't.
Some have been waiting for quite a long time.
Yes. So before jumping into those metrics, I wanted to this is the most polished version of yourself that you can put out there, basically, which likely costs more than any other single piece of content you're going to make. It may not be larger than any other investment in other parts of the funnel because, as we'll get to, there's a larger quantity of that content. But in terms of per video cost, this one I think is most likely top of the food chain.
Yeah. So then connecting the amount of money you put into it, what are we expecting to get out of this? What sort of metrics are we tracking, and what sort of ROI can we expect from something at this point?
The general rule of thumb, not to give away the rest of the episode, is the closer we get to the sale, the easier it is to track ROI, and the more valuable the metrics that you should be tracking are to selling things. So at this stage, because it's the stage that by definition is furthest away from the sale, from a metric standpoint, we're able to consider some of those what we call vanity metrics, right? Engagement. How much of this video are people watching? We've put a lot of effort and a lot of money into this to look as good as possible. Is this connecting? Or are people dropping off at a certain point?
Yep.
Is that a messaging problem? Is it because we ran out of energy during the edit and the last third is not as good as the first two I mean, there could be all kinds of reasons. And then what kind of reach does it have? If this is your opening the door to people, you want this to have a higher view rate likely than any of your other individual pieces of content, because this is where people really get into understanding what it is that you can sell them, which, let's not forget, this is what we're trying to do here. We're trying to sell people things. Views, engagement, and then if we wanted to start to get into some value-based metrics, I'd say that click-through rate. Is this message connecting to the point where people then want to fill in the blank?
Sure, fill out a form.
Or go to the next piece of content you want them to consume or visit. I mean, whatever that primary CTA is it getting some kind of action, or are people just kind of consuming it and saying, oh, that's nice, and moving on?
Yeah.
And so from an ROI standpoint, it's hard to...
It's hard to connect from all of those people.
It's the hardest piece, yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of people who are not going to end up buying.
Yep.
And it's hard to draw a straight line from there to a purchase.
And that's fine. But if you're on a basic level, if you're identifying more further downstream, if your numbers are going up, that probably means that this top level content is working.
Sure.
So you may even have to just look at the overall metrics from your downstream content, and if those have an increase, it's circumstantial, but it implies
it validates
that there are more people coming into that funnel.
Yep.
And like you talked to before, working with clients now on that qualification piece, some of the argument is you've got a really bad process, or you're getting a lot of unqualified prospects going to demo, or raising their hand, or submitting themselves as a lead, or whatever it is based on the company. God forbid we do a really good job of increasing people in the funnel, because then that's just going to create a logjam, because the bottom part of your funnel is messed up anyway and is a sieve, and the right people aren't going to get through.
Yeah.
So God forbid we do our job right, higher up in the funnel, and the bottom part of the funnel can't handle it
Falls
because
apart.
it's mismanaged or not disqualifying or
Yeah.
whatever all of those things are. So, yeah, if all of a sudden you see an increase in that kind of stuff, it's likely that you're doing a good job getting people into that whole pipeline. I'd like to hear from our sponsor.
Some of our sponsors have really, really quality copy that they send through.
Oh, yeah.
Others don't because maybe they were less prepared when they signed up. The Whipper Capper, and so you were part of this experiment last night. So what they did is they sent us their product.
Yes.
And you may have noticed Parker. We were at the baseball game last night,
We were. Durham Bulls. Go Bulls. They won
Yep.
something to something.
and Parker, you saw him wearing the hat.
Uh-huh.
Well,
Parker being your 3-year-old son.
yep.
Yep.
So before we went to the game, we put the Whipper Capper inside of his head. It fits into all different sizes. It's adjustable just like hats are. As I was saying before we even started the podcast, I was like, man, I barely got to see you guys because I thought that the kids were going to be misbehaving and Jen was going to have to take them home and I'd be able to hang out and whatever. They were remarkably well behaved, weren't they?
They were. Is
and-
that because of?
The Whipper Capper. So there's the Whipper Capper and then the Whipper Capper Deluxe. We had the Deluxe, which I think is great, but it's a step up. So the Whipper Capper by itself, it's simply, so it's in the hat. If a child is misbehaving, it starts to pull their ear like like your grandma used to do if you were misbehaving. The Whipper Capper Deluxe, it has a variety of punishments. So
Sure.
it does it pulls, but it also flicks. It does the wet willy,
Right.
and then there's a function you have to turn the dial up a little bit, but they'll actually kind of smack the back of the kid's head, and that's just to get some variety so that you can kind of level up. Like, hey, I said stop it, but
No.
you don't have to act that way as an adult anymore. You can just let the cap do its job.
Right. And this is all driven by AI, right?
Right.
Yeah. And so it's actually connecting to certain spots.
It's like a neural link.
It's a neural, it's a neural
Yeah.
link kind of thing. So it doesn't actually pull their ear. It just creates a sensation in their brain that
Correct.
makes them feel like their ears.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
You might
Which
have
is
seen it.
amazing for $34.95.
Yeah.
For the deluxe.
Yeah, I mean,
version.
it's kind of in a testing mode right now. It's not available for sale yet.
Any side effects that you noticed?
They slept really late this morning,
Okay.
and we couldn't get his hat off, so I don't.
Without a bleeding.
Yeah.
But like you said, beta mode.
Beta. So
Yeah.
I mean, look for those to be released right before Christmas time, the holidays. But yeah, it was a phenomenal experience. I wish I could have spent more time with you guys.
Yeah. No,
I
that's
was enjoying my time with my children, which
I know. That's weird.
yeah.
Well, we're excited to have the Whipper Capper on board.
Should we jump back into the funnel here?
Yeah.
Let's not go into the deep end yet. Let's stay kind of in the middle. All right. So we're what's happening at this stage of the funnel? We've identified that a problem exists, and that we have that problem. We've found a brand that may have a solution for me.
Yes.
Now what's happening?
As a brand, we start to explain our solution. As an audience, we want to understand what solutions this brand provides to our problems or our problem, the options that there are, what kind of features, what kind of, which of my pain points is it going to help me solve, which of my problems is it going to address, and what are what are these different products? How do they work together? Are they things that work together? Or do I need, those kinds of things? Is this something that I could see really being a solution? Because then at that point, I want to weigh it against some other options, and that's where we're in kind of that bottom stage.
Yeah.
This is all, from this point on, it's all branded.
Sure.
It still may not be hugely salesy, but at the very least, we're saying that Let Us Wrap LLC has a bib lettuce wrap and
A romaine
lettuce wrap and an iceberg lettuce wrap and
Romaine's probably for the long sausage shaped things,
yeah,
just given its shape and
Yep.
its sturdiness.
And
you
the-
can put a lot of toppings on it.
a bib lettuce replaces a bagel, of course.
Yeah.
But yes, that's exactly it. Like, what might you use the romaine for? Okay, your sausages, your hot dogs. I mean, this is absolutely absurd, but it kind of works. Right, and so you want, if we expand this into the real B2B space, you want people to be able to understand, okay, there's this product, and this product. This is something that I am responsible for, or that I need help with, or that I need to be managing. So is this, and so is this. On each of those silos, now I need to understand, okay, well, does it integrate with Marketo?
Sure.
Does it provide reporting? Does it do the things that I currently use bread for, right? Outside of just hot dog buns, bagels, and sandwiches, all the other things that I use bread for, like charcuterie plates and French toast and whatever. Can it do those things, or is there just a set group of things that it does really well? And to get to a point to either be able to say, I think this is something I want to consider trying, or, you know what, I know I need to get away from bread, and they've really helped me understand why I should and validate the idea to get away from bread, but I don't think lettuce is the way to go.
Yep.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
Because then they're not going to be someone saying, yes, please give me a lettuce demo.
Yeah.
And your sales rep is going to waste time doing an hour-long demo to someone who already kind of feels like, well, lettuce isn't the right solution.
Yeah.
We do work a bit to death, don't we? Traditionally, we work a bit to death. So yeah, that's what we're trying to do at this stage.
So you're evaluating if this product in particular is right. You're not comparing anything yet. You're just
right. Is this a potential either solution to a problem I have or replacement for a solution that I already have that's going to be better, cheaper, faster, whatever?
So, let's talk about the production quality here. Does it need to be of a certain level? Or where would you suggest it be?
I would say that it doesn't need to be the level of the brand intro video, because it's not the front door, but we're standing in the foyer and we can see the directions we can go. To mix metaphors, we can see that the formal parlor is over here, the dining room is over here, the kitchen and the living area are off on the back of the house. We can also see that there's an upstairs, and we see that there's got to be at least 3 bedrooms up there. I see a bathroom. Like, I can see, and so I've got my options to kind of explore each space. And if there's like piles of dirty laundry, or there's cobwebs on the baseboards, and there's like kids' toys all around, whatever, like, okay, that's probably not something I want to do a whole lot of exploring on.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be like perfect architectural detail, but what you've got, make it clean.
Yeah.
Make it inviting.
Yeah. Very good. So in terms of quantity, you're like you said, up at the top of this funnel, I've got a front door that I'm only focused on the front door. Now I see that I've got some options, and so you've got to address certain points, but you don't have to go into like extreme detail on everything. Right. And so they should be short, they should be pointed and informative, but not super long. I should be able to kind of choose my own journey here and see and test some stuff out.
In terms of the old sales language, you've got features and benefits, right? So if our higher up in the funnel stuff is again, since we're not getting to a solution, we can't be talking about any features. That front door these are the benefits you get from working with us, from partnering with us, from buying one of our products, whatever it may be. These are the benefits of coming into this house. Now, if we're standing in the foyer, we can at least take a step over into the threshold of each of these other rooms. We can peek our head in and say, oh, that fireplace makes this room cozy. So that feature, the fireplace, gives me the benefit of a cozy space. So now I can see that this product is what starts to potentially address the issue I had of not having a cozy space to have hot chocolate
Yep.
and, cuddle up with the kids before bedtime
Yep.
kind of thing. The next stage is then going in and actually like sitting on the couch or turning
Testing
on the
it out a
fire
little.
and seeing
Yeah,
how
yeah.
much heat is it putting out,
Yes,
right?
yes.
But we're standing in the threshold, we're looking in that one space and we're saying, okay, I like this room.
Yep.
And then we're going to another room and saying, oh, there's some great natural